So today I'm going to play with the Arturia MiniFreak. It's probably my favorite hardware synth I've ever owned. I haven't owned a lot of hardware synths. I've tended to use groove boxes or software, but I really like Arturia. They didn't send this over. Perfect Circuit actually sent this over in exchange for a shout out in a different video, and they're cool. I appreciate that. I still paid a lot of money. It was just a bit of a discount. So full disclaimer there. Anyway, let's play this synth and kind of show you what it's all about. First, I want to show you a preset I made called Old Guitar that I really like. And it's just a really interesting device. It has 6-voice polyphony, whereas the MiniFreak, or sorry, the MicroFreak had polyphony, which this also can do. And that really comes down to sharing a filter and how many notes you can play that have their own individual filter running through it. And I can't get too deep into the specifics of it, but it essentially changes how you can play multiple notes. Let's check out some of the sounds that Arturia made themselves, or at least commissioned. That's cool. That's all right. It's pretty. That's cool. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's nice. That's cool. Cool. Zupa. I don't like that one. Abyss pad. Not for me, but cool. Cool. When people talk to me about hardware and software, especially when I started doing music production, really when I started doing YouTube videos about music production, because I've been doing music production since like 2008. But, 3 or 4 years ago, when I started to understand hardware versus software, when I was getting into iPad synths and I had been using Ableton for a long time, I had this assumption that hardware sounded better. And I think in certain circumstances that's hypothetically true. But these days, I mean, especially something like the MiniFreak, which you can literally buy a software version of for much less money, it's not necessarily about the sound quality, but it's more about the experience of creating sound and playing with sound having a hardware interface. And so if you were to say, get a MIDI controller and map it perfectly to MiniFreak V, right? Then you'd probably have a really similar experience. I'm not sure how one-to-one you can get it, but I'm guessing with, the Arturia keyboards that already have mapping to Analog Lab that it would be a pretty good experience. But there's something kind of magical about this, and I know I use the word magic when I talk about hardware, but it's the best way I can describe it. And it's basically, there is this magic to just plugging something into wall power or off of a battery power, depending on the synth, putting on a pair of headphones, and just making a sound. Just playing with a sound. And these devices keep getting better and better and sounding cooler and cooler. And again, I think dollar for dollar, sound quality for sound quality, you'll just get more bang for your buck with software. I mean, there's channels like Gas Therapy and other folks who will talk about the fact you can make music using almost anything, and you don't need things like this. And so I definitely would not suggest that a new producer or any producer go out of their way to buy something like this to get good or to become a better musician. The way you become a better musician is by practice. Listen to different types of music. Practice your skills. Practice keyboards or guitar, or maybe you're just someone who enters notes into piano rolls. That's cool too. It's a different type of production than what I do. But just practice your craft. Study the greats. Study your peers. And really do the work. If you're trying to be a great musician, or really a great anything, it's about practice. When I buy this gear, and I'll get comments sometimes like, oh, where's the music though? And, especially if I do something where I'm talking about a piece of gear, I think it's worth noting it's okay to just like gear. I'm a little bit tired of this discourse, actually, that's like, anyone making videos about music technology should be focused entirely on trying to be a famous musician or whatever. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's like 1 million people trying to do that. And there are going to be thousands of people better than you at basically everything. That doesn't mean don't try to focus on the craft, don't try to do the best you can. But I would just say, like, if you follow the mentality you need to do something like 10,000 hours or whatever, that's what Malcolm Gladwell said in Outliers, to become an expert at something, then obviously making videos like this, if your end goal is to just be the best music producer in the world, they're not congruent, hypothetically or necessarily. But if your goal is to showcase and enjoy playing with gear and playing with technology, I've always been someone who enjoyed trying new things, having new experiences, and especially with technology. And so for me, this idea that this is an invalid pursuit is just stupid, to be frank. If you are a hobbyist and you buy a piece of gear and it brings you joy in this cold, dark, scary place we call the Earth, that's good enough, in my opinion. That's enough. And if you get more than that out of it, great. And if you use it to make songs that you love, great. And if you let your kids play with it or your friends play with it, or you use it to start a live show or do anything else with it, if you just look at it and you're like, this is a beautiful thing, I'm glad it's in my house, I like playing with it and learning from it, all of that is valid, okay? And so people are allowed to have their own different opinions, obviously, and I really do appreciate, as long as people are not just coming at me in like cruel ways or like belittling my appearance or things like that, I am totally fine with comments that don't agree or have the same opinion that I have. That's really important. But I would say take some time to think about, if you are someone who's like, why aren't you just focusing on the craft? It's like, you clicked on a video about a piece of gear, bud. Not to get too into the weeds. It's the same thing as like, if I make a video called, is X gear worth it in X year? People are like, of course it's worth it. Why would you even ask that? And it's like, well, you clicked on the video and commented because it was called. Anyway, back to the gear. But yeah, I will just say, it's okay to just enjoy things. And it's okay to like hardware because it brings you joy. Or it feels magic to just plug something in, play some keys, and hear beautiful sounds, or weird sounds, or whatever you want to hear, whatever you want to make. It's okay to enjoy the craft, and it's okay to enjoy where you can in what I will say is a pretty hard life experience, in my opinion, right now. It's okay to just do something if it makes you happy like this. And it doesn't have to be anything bigger than that. And you don't have to hold yourself to some standard that you're not the next young phenom. It's okay. If you can tell, I'm turning 30 in April, and it's getting to me. Also, I will say, counter to basically everything I just said, be open to new ideas and being wrong as well. Maybe I'll look back on what I said 2 years from now and think that was stupid. Hopefully I'm in a better place and I know more, but I'm going to have a feeling that might age well, actually, to just enjoy the things you can enjoy while you can. Oh, I love this one. I'm a real sucker for like FM-style key sounds. It's a little different. It's a little almost synth poppy, but it's got that vibe. Something I actually like to do is when I get a piece of gear like this, or if I get a soft synth and I have a MIDI controller, I'll spend, half an hour, multiple times a week just playing with sounds like this. I've learned how to play keyboard in like school a few times, and I don't remember how to read music. I actually want to make it a goal this year to get better at more dramatic chord types, because I really only know triads and tweaking them a little bit. But outside of knowing what a root note is, like that's C, so that's C major. C, D, E? I don't know. See, we hit the wall on what my music theory knowledge is really quick, and then I just play around. You just have to hear what notes sound good together. Like, that sounds good. That sounds bad. Anyway, let's play a little bit more, and then I'll let you go. If you've enjoyed this video or any of my videos, consider liking and subscribing. It helps the channel a lot. If you're interested in any gear, you've already got gear on your mind, I have links to Zounds, Perfect Circuit, Amazon, and sometimes the direct manufacturers, not in this case. Using those links tells those companies that I'm a worthwhile person to support and send things to. And they also usually send me a very small fee to help the channel. I also have some Patreon patrons, which I am eternally grateful for. You don't get a ton of extra bonuses because I'm a big proponent in just having the work be here and free for you on YouTube. If you support me on Patreon, you'll get a download of my album and the next album when it comes out this year or next year. I don't want to hold too tight to that deadline. And you'll get some demos and things like that. But the Patreon is a way to support me. I am not using it as a way to like make a bunch of extra secret gated content. I want people to get the most value they can from my music and from my videos without having to pay extra money. So if you want to pay, just know you're supporting me. It's not necessarily to get a bunch of free extra bonuses. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I work a full-time job, so I don't have a ton of extra time to make a bunch of extra things. But I really appreciate the people who are my Patreon patrons, including these kind of folks. You know what? I'll say their names. Thank you to Tempest Anderson, iPod My Pants, Sigmata, and Cute Story for just being fantastic people and really going out of their way to support me in a way I honestly can't believe. Ooh, it's a paraphonic lead. That's such an interesting idea. A lead you can play huge chords with. Grit. Do you ever feel lost in the world? No, I'm just kidding. We don't have to get into that. All right. I hope you have a wonderful week, day, time, life. And I'll play out with a little bit of chapel organ. Comment below if you also have no idea what you're doing with your life. If you feel like you're floating on a rock and alone, and when people try to reach out, you push them away. Because you've just been burned too many times before. Anyway, watch Ted Lasso, I guess. I don't know. I gotta cheer myself up again somehow. Have a wonderful week. Bye.